"You can't cut me out, I'm doing everything you asked." Mom screamed at Grandma about her will, so I cut her off permanently. Now she begging to return. I'm 25. Growing up, my life was a revolving door of my mother's bad decisions. She had 5 of us, me, my brother who's also 25, and my sisters aged 23, 21, and 18. Each of us carries scars from watching Mom's parade of abusive boyfriends. We became experts at reading moods, at knowing when to hide, when to intervene. Her second boyfriend was the worst. He didn't just hit her, he turned on us kids too. The breaking point came 5 years ago when Mom's latest boyfriend sexually abused my 2 younger sisters. Child services got involved, and suddenly we were facing our worst nightmare, our sisters potentially ending up in foster care. My brother and I immediately turned to our grandmother, begging her to take them in until we could figure something out. We were in college then, barely adults ourselves, but we would have dropped everything to keep our family together. Our grandmother, Mom's mother and the true hero of this story, didn't hesitate. "Focus on college," she told us. "I'll take care of your sisters." She became their guardian, and for the first time in their lives, my younger sisters knew what stability felt like. They flourished under her care, surrounded by love instead of fear. We all cut contact with Mom after that. It was easier to pretend she didn't exist than to deal with the pain she'd brought into our lives. But 2 months ago, she resurfaced with an email about wanting to reconnect through family therapy. She claimed she'd finally left her boyfriend and missed us desperately. What I didn't know then, what I wouldn't discover until much later, was that her sudden desire to reconnect had nothing to do with missing us. My grandmother had recently updated her will, making it clear that Mom would be cut off completely unless she showed real change and reconciled with her children. There was significant inheritance at stake. My grandmother had done well for herself despite raising Mom alone, and suddenly Mom was very interested in being a parent again. Initially, I kept her email to myself, trying to protect my siblings from another disappointment. But when she sent a second one full of promises about change and healing, I consulted my grandmother. "Let them decide," she advised, though I later learned she was testing Mom's sincerity. The first meeting was at a restaurant. Mom looked exhausted but eager, too eager in retrospect. When I declined her hug, anger flashed across her face before she could hide it. Throughout the meal, she kept steering the conversation toward getting custody of my younger sisters back. Their discomfort was palpable, but she either didn't notice or didn't care. Later that night, she sent me an angry email about how my disrespect would teach my siblings to mistreat her. The irony of her concern about mistreatment wasn't lost on me. Then came the therapy session. Mom spent the first part painting herself as this protective, sacrificing mother who'd done everything possible to shield her children from harm. The therapist asked how we felt about her version of events, and my siblings sat in stunned silence. That's when Mom showed her true colors, accusing me of orchestrating the silence, of poisoning my siblings against her. Something in me snapped. Years of buried rage erupted as I laid out the truth: how she dumped her adult problems on me when I was just a child, how she'd ignored my brother's beatings when he tried to protect her, how she'd failed to act when my sisters first reported their abuse. I screamed about watching her choose violent men over her children's safety, about begging for basic necessities while she spent money on her boyfriends. The aftermath was swift. Mom's side of the family bombarded me with calls and texts, calling me horrible for attacking her when she was trying to change. They didn't know about the inheritance ultimatum, about how this was all a performance for my grandmother's benefit. Then came her 4 a.m. email, the one that revealed everything. She'd found my Reddit post through a relative and was furious about me going public. She mentioned her new boyfriend, already another man in the picture, and how he'd encouraged her to extend an olive branch. She played the victim card hard, talking about her own abuse while conveniently ignoring how she'd perpetuated the cycle. But the most revealing part came in a conversation my grandmother shared with me later. Mom had called her, raging about the therapy session, and let it slip about the inheritance. "You can't cut me out," she screamed. I'm doing everything you asked, I'm trying to fix things with them. My grandmother's response was ice cold. You're not trying to fix anything, you're trying to buy your way back into my will with your children's pain. Well, guess what? It's not going to work. The next day, my siblings and I made the decision to go permanently no contact. When I shared Mom's manipulative email with them, my youngest sister was the one who spotted the patterns we'd missed before. How Mom had love-bombed us initially, then tried to isolate each of us to tell her side of the story. How she'd attempted to turn us against each other by suggesting I was controlling them. I wrote back one final email addressing her by her first name because she'd never really been a mother to us. I told her exactly what I thought of her manipulation, her fake redemption arc, her inability to be alone without a man. I told her she was dead to me, and I meant it. The aftermath has been both painful and liberating. My siblings and I are closer than ever, united in our decision to protect ourselves from her toxicity. My grandmother has become even more of a rock for us, supporting our decision while dealing with the flying monkeys from Mom's side of the family. There are still hard days when I question whether I was too harsh, too angry. But then I remember the fear in my sister's eyes when Mom talked about regaining custody, the way my brother's hands shook during the therapy session, and I know we made the right choice. Sometimes protecting your family means cutting out the person who should have protected you in the first place. My grandmother revealed more about Mom's past that helped explain but not excuse her behavior. My grandfather had been abusive, and my grandmother had fought hard to protect Mom and give her a better life. But instead of breaking the cycle, Mom seemed determined to repeat it. The difference, my grandmother said, is that you and your siblings chose to be different. You protected each other when no one else would. That's worth more than any inheritance. My grandmother also told me something that helped put everything in perspective. Your mother, she said, has always seen relationships as transactions. She thought she could buy her way back into your lives the same way she tried to buy her way back into my will, but love isn't for sale and neither are you kids. She's right. We're not pawns in Mom's redemption story or bargaining chips for her inheritance. We're survivors who found strength in each other, who built our own version of family from the ashes of what she destroyed. And no amount of manipulation or money can change that truth. The pattern continued even after we cut contact. She'd occasionally send a letter to my younger sisters, writing things like, I know your sister turned you against me, but I forgive you. She tried to friend my brother on social media using fake accounts, sending him messages about how I was the reason the family fell apart. One particularly manipulative incident stands out. Last Christmas, before she reached out about therapy, she sent my youngest sister a letter. In it, she claimed that she had evidence that I had known about the abuse long before it was reported but had kept quiet because I was jealous of the attention she gave my sisters. It was a complete lie designed to drive a wedge between us. My sister brought the letter straight to me and we cried together over Mom's cruelty. The inheritance angle explained so much about her timing. My grandmother later shared that she'd updated her will after seeing how well my siblings and I were doing despite everything. I wanted to leave my money to people who would use it to build something good, she told me, not to enable more destruction. The amount was substantial. My grandmother had invested wisely over the years and owned several properties. Mom stood to lose access to millions, and suddenly her maternal instincts had awakened. She even started sending my grandmother regular updates about her progress in becoming a better person, complete with staged photos of her volunteering at church events. My brother took it especially hard when we discovered Mom's true motivations. He had been the one most willing to believe she might have changed. He broke down and told me about all the times he'd tried to defend us when we were kids, how he'd felt like a failure when he couldn't stop the abuse. But look at us now, I told him. We did protect them in the end, we got them out, we kept them safe. The therapy I'm in now is helping me understand how deep the manipulation went. How Mom would use our love for each other as a weapon, threatening to separate us if we didn't comply with her wishes. How she'd convince us that no one else would ever love or understand us like she did, even as she failed to protect us from harm. My youngest sister recently started her own therapy, and her insights have been eye-opening. She remembered things I had forgotten or never knew, like how Mom would whisper to her that I was trying to replace her as a mother figure, or how she'd promise special treats to whichever child told her what the others were saying about her. The layers of betrayal seem endless. Each day brings new memories, new realizations about how she tried to corrupt the one thing that kept us strong, our bond with each other. But she failed. If anything, discovering her manipulation has only brought us closer together. Mom still tries to reach us through flying monkeys, relatives who don't know or don't care about the truth. They talk about forgiveness, about how she's changed, about how families should stick together. They don't understand that we are sticking together. We're just not including the person who tried to tear us apart. Some days, the anger still threatens to overwhelm me. I'm angry at Mom for her manipulation, at her enablers for their willful blindness, at myself for ever doubting that cutting contact was the right choice. But my therapist is helping me see that this anger is healthy. It's my mind's way of protecting me from further harm. My vision board has grown. Alongside messages of support, I've added photos of my siblings at their happiest moments, graduations, birthdays, ordinary days filled with extraordinary joy. These images remind me of what we fought to protect, what will always protect each other. When people ask about our mother now, I no longer feel the need to explain or justify our decision. The truth is simple. She saw us as means to an end, first as emotional support, then as pawns in her relationships, and finally as a path to inheritance. She never saw us as people who deserved protection and love. As I write this final update, my youngest sister just texted our group chat. She aced her first college exam. My brother immediately responded with plans for a celebration dinner. My other sisters chimed in with proud messages and emoji hearts. This is what family looks like, not a performance for inheritance, but a genuine celebration of each other's joy. Mom's latest flying monkey tried to tell me I'd regret this decision when I'm older, that I'd wish I'd given her another chance. But looking at my siblings' messages, seeing the love and support we've built together, I know the truth. The only thing I would have regretted was letting her manipulate us one more time.